My family had ignored me for years, but that changed one Thanksgiving when I casually mentioned my $160 million fortune. My sister's jaw dropped, and my dad just stared in silence. I learned how to disappear when I was 9. That was the year my sister Sophie turned 18 and received her first car, a brand new BMW wrapped in a red ribbon sitting in our driveway. I watched from my bedroom window as she screamed with excitement, hugged our parents, and accepted congratulations from neighbors for being such a wonderful daughter. No one noticed me standing there in my worn-out sweater and second-hand pants. Sophie was the golden child from the start. 7 years older, she arrived when my parents were still full of ambition and optimism, determined to raise the perfect daughter. By the time I came along, I think I was more of an accident than a plan. Their excitement had faded. My baby book was barely filled in, and after my first birthday, the photo album stayed empty. My parents owned a small insurance company in Connecticut. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. At least, Sophie was. She attended Westfield Academy, an elite private school that cost more per year than most people's cars. I went to Franklin Public School, just a few blocks away, where the ceilings leaked when it rained and textbooks were decades old. When I asked why Sophie went to private school, but I didn't, my mother looked at me like I'd asked something absurd. Sophie needs more stimulation, sweetheart. She's gifted. You're doing just fine where you are. That word, fine, haunted me as a child. Sophie was exceptional. I was just fine. When Sophie turned 17, she got a trip to Paris with our parents. For my birthday, they spent $30 on a grocery store cake. When my graphing calculator broke, I saved to buy a used one because I knew better than to ask for help. At first, I wasn't resentful. I thought that was just how families worked. That some kids got more because they deserved it. I accepted that idea until it became part of who I was. But what I lacked in attention, I made up for in creativity. While Sophie was taking French and violin lessons, I taught myself to code using library books and free online courses. While she spent summers at expensive camps in the Adirondacks, I worked at a local grocery store and saved every penny. While she debated which Ivy League school to attend, I applied to state universities, hoping for scholarships. I was accepted to the University of Connecticut on a full academic scholarship. My parents took me to Applebee's to celebrate. When Sophie got into Yale, they threw a huge garden party for 50 people, complete with a catered buffet and champagne. I ate 3 sliders and left early. No one noticed. College became my escape. I double majored in computer science and mathematics, worked 2 part-time jobs, and spent every free moment improving my skills. I rarely went home for breaks. I'd say I was busy studying, but the truth was, I couldn't stand seeing Sophie celebrated while I barely existed. During my junior year, everything shifted. I started freelancing as a web developer for small businesses. One client mentioned their company was losing money due to poor inventory tracking. Over winter break, I built them a software solution. It worked. They paid me $6,500, the most money I'd ever seen. More importantly, they told others about my work. Within 6 months, I had 10 clients asking for similar systems. I reduced my course load and focused entirely on development. I barely slept, lived on ramen and coffee, and coded until my hands ached. My software grew into something much larger. I named it SupplySync, a full supply chain management system that could integrate with existing software and provide real-time data. At 21, I was running a real tech company from my dorm room. I graduated at 22. Sophie had finished Yale a year earlier and was now working at a top marketing firm in Manhattan, living in an apartment our parents helped her buy. They constantly bragged about her success, showing off photos of her office as if it were their own. They knew I'd graduated and that I worked with computers, but they never cared to know the details. Whenever I tried to explain what SupplySync did, my dad would nod politely and quickly change the subject to Sophie's latest presentation. I eventually stopped trying, but one visit nearly broke my silence for good. I was 23, home for Easter. Sophie had just gotten engaged to a lawyer named Ethan, whom my parents adored. The engagement would only last 8 months before he cheated, but that day she was showing off her ring to everyone. Meanwhile, I had just signed a $300,000 contract that would let me hire 5 new employees. Excited, I shared the news during dinner. "That's wonderful, dear," my dad said without looking up from his phone. My mom immediately turned to Sophie. "We should host an engagement party at the house, maybe rent a tent for the backyard." Sophie squealed, and just like that, the conversation shifted. I excused myself, went upstairs to my old bedroom, now converted into Sophie's gift-wrapping room, and called my business partner, Olivia. Surrounded by rolls of fancy paper and ribbons, I told her, "They don't care." "Then stop telling them," she said. "You don't need their approval. Build your empire. Let your work speak for itself." That conversation changed everything. Olivia was right. I'd spent years craving recognition from people who would never see me as more than Sophie's forgettable little sister. From then on, I poured all my energy, every ounce of pain, rejection, and neglect into building something undeniable. At 23, I signed my first big contract, a regional logistics company that paid $250,000 to use SupplySync across their entire operation. I hired my first 2 developers, talented people I'd met online who believed in the vision. At 24, a national retailer joined, then another, and another. By 25, I had 47 employees and $7 million in annual revenue. At 26, a venture capital firm offered $18 million for 30% of the company. I negotiated it down to 20% for $12 million. My lawyer was stunned by my confidence. But I knew what SupplySync was worth. I could have told my family then. I could have shown up at Christmas and proved I was more than just fine. But something stopped me. Maybe pride. Maybe the memory of every dismissive look, every ignored milestone, every birthday they forgot. So instead, I decided to see how far I could go while they still weren't watching. I wanted to build something so extraordinary that even they couldn't overlook it. I chose to stay low profile. I lived quietly in a modest apartment in Boston, drove a Honda Civic, and kept focusing on building my company. By the age of 27, SupplySync had expanded internationally. We signed contracts in Canada, Mexico, and the United Kingdom, reaching $25 million in revenue. I moved into a slightly better apartment and upgraded my car to a Lexus, though I still kept the Honda. At 28, acquisition offers began arriving from major tech corporations, eager to integrate SupplySync into their systems, offering enormous sums. But I rejected them all. This company was mine, and I wasn't ready to give it up. The first offer, $120 million, from a Silicon Valley giant, required dissolving SupplySync completely and folding the technology into their platform. I declined within a day. The next was $170 million from a European conglomerate. It was more money, but their condition involved relocating me to Frankfurt and dismissing my entire team within a year. My board thought I'd lost my mind. "Lily, these are life-changing offers," one investor told me heatedly. "You're leaving hundreds of millions on the table." But I wasn't interested in money that compromised everything I'd built. "SupplySync isn't just code," I said. "It's a team and a vision." Then came Claire Matthews, CEO of Innovix Technologies, the self-made entrepreneur who understood what it meant to build from scratch. We met for coffee in Boston, and she presented a plan that respected my work. "I don't want to absorb SupplySync," she said while stirring her coffee. "I want to expand it. You stay on as CEO. Your entire team stays in place. We'll provide the infrastructure and funding to make it truly global. You keep your vision. We'll give you the means to grow it beyond what you could do alone." I listened for 2 hours, and by the end, I knew this was different. Negotiations took 3 months, with lawyers from both sides debating every clause. I fought for my team, ensuring strong retention bonuses and equity packages. When we finally agreed on a $280 million deal, that met all my conditions. Claire smiled and said, "You drive a tough bargain." I secured creative control, the authority to reject any decision that threatened our core values, and every other term that mattered to me. "I know my worth," I told them. "I've spent my life being underestimated. That ends now." Innovix's final offer was $310 million to acquire SupplySync as an independent subsidiary. I would remain CEO, maintain full creative control, and gain global resources. It was a deal I couldn't turn down. After taxes, legal fees, and team bonuses, I walked away with $160 million personally. I kept $25 million in cash and invested the rest under my financial advisor's guidance. At 28, I had more wealth than I could ever spend, and my family had no clue. My sister Sophie had just gotten engaged to Chase, a hedge fund manager. My father once suggested I apply for a position at his insurance firm because they needed someone good with computers. My mother occasionally asked if I was still doing that programming thing, as if it were a hobby. I flew home for Sophie's engagement party, gave them a $300 registry gift card, and left before the speeches began. She didn't notice until the next day. The acquisition closed in October. By November, I'd settled into my new role under Innovix, signed a 5-year contract, and started deciding how to use my earnings. I donated anonymously to my old public school, funding a full technology lab renovation and creating scholarships. Then I bought my first real luxury, a beautiful home in Brooklyn overlooking the Charles River. But I didn't post about it or tell anyone beyond a few close friends. As Thanksgiving neared, I decided to go home, not because I'd softened, but because I'd realized something. Their approval no longer mattered. I'd spent years chasing validation, craving recognition, but now I didn't need it. I had proven my worth to myself. When I called my mother to confirm my visit, she sounded surprised. "Oh, wonderful, honey. Sophie and Chase will be here too. Chase's parents might come by. It'll be a big family reunion." She paused. "You're still doing that computer work, right? Are you making enough to live comfortably? Your father knows someone who might be hiring." I smiled and said, "I'm doing fine, Mom." "Good. See you Thursday." I packed a small suitcase and added one special item, the folder containing the acquisition papers, not for a grand reveal, but as a personal reminder of what I'd achieved without them. The drive to Connecticut felt different this time. Usually, I'd spend the trip bracing for disappointment, expecting to be overlooked again. But this time, I played music and admired the fall colors. There was an unfamiliar calm in me. A week earlier, my therapist, Dr. Chen, had asked, "Why do you want to go to Thanksgiving? What do you hope to gain?" I had thought about it for days. "I want to see if I still care," I finally said. "If their opinion still affects me, then I know I have more work to do. But if it doesn't," I smiled, "then I'm free." Dr. Chen nodded. "Remember, Lily, freedom doesn't depend on their approval. You don't need to prove anything." "I know," I said, and this time I meant it. As I pulled into my parents' driveway, the truth of that sank in. I wasn't there to prove anything. I was there to see who I'd become in spite of them, or maybe to say goodbye to the version of me who once needed their love so desperately. The house looked unchanged. The same manicured lawn, the same luxury cars. Sophie's BMW had been upgraded to a Mercedes. The chandelier still gleamed through the front window. My mom greeted me at the door with a warm hug. "You made it! Come in. Sophie and Chase are in the living room." Sophie glanced up from her phone on the couch. Chase, sitting neatly beside her, dressed like every hedge fund manager. Tailored suit even on a casual Wednesday, perfect hair, and a watch worth more than most cars. She was, as always, effortlessly beautiful and poised. "Hey, Lil," she said without much enthusiasm, returning her gaze to her phone. "Hey," I replied, setting my bag down. "How's the wedding planning?" "Oh my God, it's insane," she said. "We're looking at venues for next June, but all the good ones are booked. Thankfully, Mom's helping. And Chase's mom too," she added. "It's basically a full-time job." Dad appeared from his study, glasses perched on his nose. "Good to see you, Lily. How's work going?" "It's good, really good." "Still doing computers?" "Yes, Dad, still computers." He nodded, already disengaged. "Stable job then. I hope it has good benefits." Sophie smirked. "Dad, she's a programmer, not a doctor. Her benefits are probably basic." I could have corrected her. I could have mentioned my $700,000 salary, the unlimited PTO, stock options, or financial advisor. Instead, I just said, "They're fine." Thanksgiving morning was the usual chaos. Mom cooked from dawn, refusing help, yet complaining about the workload. Sophie ordered Chase around, rearranging furniture to her liking. I helped quietly, chopping vegetables, staying out of the way. Aunt Laura arrived at noon with Uncle Dan and their 2 kids, Mom's older sister. She shared the same obsession with appearances and status. Her kids, Ryan and Ava, carried the arrogance of never hearing no. "Lily," Laura exclaimed, kissing my cheeks. "Still single, I see. Don't worry, dear. The right man will come along. Try one of those apps, maybe." "I'm not really looking right now, Aunt Laura." "Nonsense," she said. "Everyone's looking. You don't want to end up alone, do you?" Then she turned to Sophie. "Now tell me all about the wedding." I quietly stepped back into the kitchen. Dinner was called at 3 p.m. The long dining table was filled. Mom and Dad at each end. Sophie and Chase with Laura's family on one side. Me squeezed between Ryan and Uncle Dan. After grace, conversation quickly centered around Sophie. The spread included turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, and the traditional cranberry sauce that no one touched. "So, Chase," Dad began, "Sophie mentioned you got promoted?" Chase smiled modestly. "Yes, sir. Managing director now. Big step up." "That's impressive," Dad said warmly. You two are really building a life together. I'm proud of you." "Thank you, Mr. Reed," Chase replied. "We're looking for houses in Westchester. 5 bedrooms, good school district. Hoping to start a family soon." Mom lit up. "Oh, Sophie, that's wonderful. You'll be such a great mother." Watching them, I felt no bitterness, only curiosity, like observing something distant. I studied Mom's glowing X, trying to recall if she'd ever looked at me that way. I couldn't remember a single time. Dad beamed at Chase, clearly viewing him as the ideal son-in-law. "You're a solid young man. Sophie's lucky to have you." Chase smiled humbly, but there was a hint of pride. He knew exactly how adored he was by my family. He was their golden son-in-law, perfect for their golden daughter. Meanwhile, I thought about my own quiet, private dating life, kept deliberately separate. Why invite someone home only to see them compared to Chase or judged by Mom's silent disapproval? Some things were better protected. Then Aunt Laura leaned forward, smiling. "So, Lily, what's your home budget?" someone asked. "We're thinking between $1 and $2.5 million, Chase replied casually, as if discussing the weather. The group nodded approvingly. Ryan asked if the house would include a pool, while Ava joked about visiting. I quietly ate my turkey, saying nothing. "And the wedding?" Laura asked. "Have you set a budget for that?" Sophie laughed. "We wanted something different. Around $250,000. Dad's helping with part of it, and Chase's parents are pitching in too." $250,000 for one day. I thought about how many scholarships that could fund, how many lives it could change, but I kept that to myself. "You deserve it, sweetheart," Mom said warmly. "It's your big day." Sophie's wedding, Sophie's house, Sophie's job, Chase's promotion, their perfect life together. I could have been a piece of furniture for all anyone noticed me. Thankfully, Uncle Dan turned to me. "So, Lily, how's work going?" The table fell silent. Everyone looked at me with polite curiosity, as if expecting a weather update. "It's going well," I said simply. "Still doing computer programming?" Dad asked. "Yeah, that's nice, honey," Mom replied in a tone that really meant, "Let's get back to Sophie." Sophie laughed lightly. "Lily's being modest. I'm sure she's doing fine with her little apps or whatever." Little apps. The software I built processed millions of transactions daily across 4 continents. But sure, little apps. "I've actually had some changes at work recently," I said, trying to sound casual. "Oh?" Mom perked up. "Did you get a promotion?" "Something like that." Sophie looked bored, swirling her wine, while Chase scrolled under the table. "I sold my company," I said quietly. The words hung in the air. Everyone paused, unsure they'd heard me right. "What company?" Dad frowned. "I thought you worked for someone else." "No, I've owned my own business for 7 years. SupplySync. It's a supply chain management platform. I was the founder and CEO." Sophie's fork stopped midair. "Wait, what?" "I started it in college, built it from scratch. We operated in 8 countries last month. I sold it to Innovix Technologies." The silence was heavy. I took a sip of water. The sale was for $280 million. After taxes and fees, I kept about $160 million. Laura's fork clattered. "Did you say millions?" "Yes." "That's impossible," Sophie blurted. "You're a coder. You live in a tiny apartment and drive a Honda." "I still have the Honda, but I also bought a Lexus. And my apartment isn't small, it's minimalist. I recently bought a house in Brooklyn." Chase looked stunned. "Brooklyn? Houses there start at—" "Mine was $4 million, I interrupted calmly. "Waterfront, 5 bedrooms, 3-car garage. Paid in cash. Sophie went pale. You're joking! I'm not. I opened my banking app and showed them my checking account balance. $25.5 million, just in liquid cash. Laura screamed, "Oh my God, that's real!" Mom snatched the phone, staring at it as if it might bite. Lily, when did this happen? I've been building Supply Sync since I was 21. Big clients for the last 5 years. No one ever. I looked at Sophie. You once said I was doing fine with my little apps. You weren't wrong. I was doing better than fine. Dad looked pale. Why didn't you tell us? We're your family. Because you never wanted to know, I said quietly. Every time I tried to talk about my work, the topic shifted to Sophie. Every achievement of mine was dismissed. Every visit home, I felt invisible. So I stopped trying. I built something incredible without your attention or approval. Sophie slammed her hand on the table. You made us think you were struggling. I pitied you. Did you really? I asked, smiling without humor. You never thought about me at all. We would have helped if you'd needed it. I never needed it. That's the point. While you got everything handed to you, the private schools, cars, Yale tuition, I worked 80-hour weeks. I taught myself everything. I earned every cent. Chase was typing rapidly, then froze. She's telling the truth. Lily Reed, founder of Supply Sync. Forbes called her one of the top female tech entrepreneurs under 30. Laura grabbed his phone, eyes wide. Oh my God, there are photos. She's at conferences, meeting the governor. Mom was crying now. Lily, why didn't you tell us? We love you. Do you? The words came out sharper than I intended. Did you love me when you forgot my birthday 3 years in a row? When you spent $200,000 on Sophie's education, but nothing on mine? When I came home for Christmas and you forgot to hang a stocking for me? That's not fair, Dad said softly. Isn't it? Tell me one thing about me. My best friend's name, my favorite meal, anything that proves you've paid attention. Silence. Sophie's face was red and tear-streaked. You're trying to hurt me. You waited until my big moment to ruin it. I laughed quietly. Your moment, every moment, has always been yours. For 28 years, you've been the center of every celebra. I didn't plan this. I'm just tired of being invisible. You're jealous, Sophie shouted. I'm not jealous, I said calmly. I'm sorry for you. She froze. What? Everything you have was given to you. Your education, your job, even your opportunities. You've never had to earn anything. You've never wondered if you could make it on your own. And now, you're marrying into comfort, living exactly what everyone expected. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not remarkable. You've never had to strive for extraordinary. Sophie lunged at me, cursing. Chase pulled her back. Mom sobbed into a napkin. Ryan and Ava sat frozen. Lily, Dad said quietly, I think you should leave. Yeah, I sighed, standing. I think so too. I picked up my coat and bag, looked around the table, Sophie fuming, my parents shocked, Laura envious. For what it's worth, I said softly, I didn't come here to ruin anything. I came because I finally realized I don't need your approval. I see Mem. My worth isn't tied to money. It's in knowing I built a life I'm proud of. I walked out. As I reached my car, I heard Sophie shouting, Mom crying, and Laura chattering. By the time I hit the highway, my phone exploded with calls. Sophie screaming, Mom pleading, Dad lecturing about family loyalty, even Laura trying to contact me for investment. I blocked them all. 3 days later, Sophie emailed me. A long, emotional message full of accusations. In the middle, one line stood out. Mom says, you bought that house with Dad's money you must have stolen. I laughed out loud in my new home overlooking the Charles River. They still couldn't believe the daughter they ignored had surpassed every expectation. A week later, my lawyer called. Your family's attorney says they want $5 million as compensation for their investment in your upbringing. Tell them no, I said. And if they contact me again, I'll countersue for mental anguish and neglect. I've documented everything, every expense, every favor that went to Sophie. I'll make it public. We never heard from them again. Christmas came and went. I spent it in Aspen with friends from the tech world, people who saw me for who I was. We skied, shared wine, and celebrated our success. My phone stayed silent. In January, I got a message from my cousin Ryan. Hey Lily, things are awkward with the family, but I wanted to say, you inspired me. I'm going to work hard and build something of my own. I smiled. Thank you, Ryan. If you ever need advice, I'm here. Build something you're proud of. Maybe something good came out of that Thanksgiving after all. Sophie got married in June. I wasn't invited, but the pictures online looked beautiful, exactly as she dreamed. 6 months ago, I started a new company focused on AI-driven logistics, hiring some of my best former employees. Major firms are already interested. This time, I'm not building in silence. I speak at panels, mentor young women in tech, and share my story. Last month, I spoke at Yale, the same place my parents once boasted about for Sophie. I almost declined, but then I remembered how proud they'd been of her. So I said yes. After my talk about creating success from nothing and turning invisibility into strength, a young woman approached me. Miss Reed, thank you. I'm a first-generation student here on scholarship. My family doesn't understand what I'm doing. Your story made me feel less alone. I hugged her. You're not alone. You'll achieve great things. Don't let anyone make you feel invisible. She left in tears, and I realized this was better than revenge. This was purpose. My family still reaches out sometimes. Mom sends birthday cards now. Dad emails tech articles like he's always been interested. Sophie recently messaged to say she's pregnant. I don't respond, not out of anger, but peace. I have friends who celebrate my success and stand by me. Colleagues who respect my work. A future I built myself. And most importantly, I have peace. People sometimes ask if I regret how it all happened, if I should have told them sooner or stayed silent forever. Maybe I could have been gentler, but then I think of that 9-year-old girl who watched her sister get a BMW and learned she wasn't worth investing in. Every forgotten moment, every dismissive comment, it shaped me. No, I don't regret it. I earned my invisibility, then my visibility, both on my terms. The money is great, the success fulfilling, but the real reward is seeing myself clearly. That's worth more than $25 million, more than any approval they could ever give. I'm no longer invisible. I'm visible to the people who matter, including myself. At that Thanksgiving dinner, after the truth came out and chaos unfolded, Dad sat silently, staring at his plate. He didn't defend me or apologize. He didn't congratulate me either. He just sat there, a man realizing too late that he'd spent a lifetime investing in the wrong daughter and lost everything that truly mattered. That silence said it all.